Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to be taking you behind the scenes to see some more stuff we were never supposed to see. So let's take a look at some of the funny animation shortcuts animators took when making the cutscenes of Tomb Raider 3. Starting off strong with, I think, my favourite slidey Lara moment. She morphs through the underbush of the forest and slides across the floor. Where she meets the seemingly magical Mad Tony, who just materialises out of thin air.
No! Nothing that taxing. What else? Yeah, Randy and Rory. Randy and Rory? Where?
There's not a lot of motion between these characters in this cutscene as they're talking. They're just frozen in place while the other one is on camera. But they have some odd things, like this box is continuously moved out of the way when Mad Tony's sort of walking around trying to put things in it. Now as Lara watches him leave, all we see is him jump down this little edge and morph through the floor, except he's coming back again, and then he sinks down again. I don't know why this happened with the animation, it's quite funny though. Now see, what we never knew about Mad Tony is his ability to stop the flow of running water and just stand still on it. As Lara comes into this cutscene, he's just there, waiting, and then, oh my gosh, she spots him! And then he starts moving. And for some reason he zigzags back and forth a bit. But what we didn't know, because of the perspective again, like in the first video, he's not actually stood on that platform. Now I love seeing this sort of magical effect on these blocks. I just assumed they tumbled. But now from this point of view it kind of looks like he's, I don't know, using telekinesis to actually hold them in place above her and drop at the right time. And you can see how he's not even on his raft. Except he goes down there. And as Lara spots the quad bike, again, he's just stood there, waiting, watching. Always watching. If she'd only turned around there and shot at him, it could have saved a lot of time. We wouldn't have had to go through that damn maze. Now, due to some clever camera trickery in this, we always assume that Lara falls and tumbles in a straight line, but actually she's shoved off to the side to make more room. I don't know why they just didn't animate her jumping over that side of the fence instead. The security guards materialise out of thin air, but most of their animations are pretty intact as well, like completely. They're sort of pushed off to the side, but all of their walking animation and holding Lara is quite complete, which is unexpected, to be honest. I thought there would be a bit of trickery going on, but nope. It's a simple little cutscene and it always reminds me of like a soda advert, but there's not a lot that happens, but there's a couple of quirky little things. So you can already see the guards waiting to close the doors just out there on the boxes. And then when they close the doors, they're put into place, and one of them starts defying gravity. Lara, meanwhile, obviously, oh, she finds a can on the floor, except it's not there. Yep, she materialises soda out of thin air. It's quite fun to see. The rest of the cutscene is really nicely animated, and I think it's just a really nice chilled out cutscene. I wonder if this was ever going to be like a Coke sponsored cutscene, but it never came to fruition. So right from the start of this one, you can see the developers have taken their shortcuts and basically they're just making Lara hover around. When we don't see her on screen, there's no need to animate her. And of course, she has the ability to teleport wherever they need her to be. At one point, she just starts rotating really slowly as though she's on some sort of salad table or lazy Susan. And of course they've got to push her off to the side so that when we have the camera perspective from her point of view, she doesn't get in the way of what we see. But what's really interesting about the end of this cutscene is when Lara takes the map off this injured guy, the camera is very clever not to show us that he's still holding it. And if we move the camera around and we go under the bed, his arm goes through the bed texture, but we can see quite clearly that he's still holding onto it. So right from the start we can see some cinema trickery here. It sounds like she's being shot at, but actually Lara shoots first. We have some shortcuts being taken. Lara is moved into position in a different place on the roof, and then when she slides down we see the animations of the assassin. He's actually not really moving. After one of two fabulous ballet moves, we see that quite a bit of this cutscene is properly animated, because we have these wide camera shots, so the animators had to fully animate these characters for most of this cutscene.
What? You heard me. I didn't, honest. What did you say? I said, who employs you? Ah!
It's only near the end of the cutscene, when he is knocked by the bell, that we see some camera tricks again. He's moved into position, and he just stays in the air in this wonderful mid-jump ballet move as Lara runs off and jumps down the hole. And if we go and see what she's up to, we can see she's just falling down endlessly onto the streets of London. So in this cutscene, it's not actually Lara that does some of the weird things. Initially we can see one of the damned doing Lara's signature move of sliding into position like the gentleman from Buffy again. He drags her around quite a bit. I don't actually remember that happening quite as violently in the cutscene itself, but obviously it did happen. But for me personally, the funniest thing about this cutscene is how when the damned leaves the room, we see he has the ability to walk through walls. The sky map outside is not something we see in this cutscene, but interestingly it's sideways for some reason. Like in the cutscene with the injured soldier in the hut, Lara is moved out of the way when the camera needs to be in the position of where she is. And like his minion, this King of the Damned character has the ability to warp through walls. We never see it in game, but now you know.
You Daisley.
Thanks.
I know this is a lot of people's favourite sort of cutscene because it has Miss Leigh. Lara enters from the side of the room. Sapphire's just sat there, waiting. Lara does her little floaty thing to get into position, but then they're not even in each other's line of sight when they're talking, which is a good way of having the camera facing both of them and not really needing to move them out of the way until they need to be in position to see them both.
Judging by your past experiments. My what? Oh yes.
Except Lara can't really hold on to the Eye of Isis without getting blasted back a few feet. Or so it looks, obviously.
Next life. We'll see.
And then when she runs away, she only makes it a couple of steps. They didn't need to animate her running off down the corridor, just get her out of sight.
Oh, aye, come in.
So right from the start here we can actually see something quite interesting. Lara's moved into position quite early on, but you can see through that window outside there's someone stood there. For quite a while during the cutscene, Lara just isn't moving. They haven't needed to animate her, they've left her in place. But what makes me laugh is that Lara has zero chill in this cutscene, and at one point it just switches to her aiming a gun in his face for no particular reason.
Bringing me here. Listen to this gibberish.
She gets a bit threatening, it's quite funny. But she doesn't even try and get up immediately, the table's just left on her neck. So what's going on outside? We have Willard inside, and dun dun dun, we already have Willard outside waiting. The different model, Willard wearing his winter jacket. So as soon as he runs outside, the camera makes it look like he's come around the corner. They've actually just moved his character off to the side somewhere. All these funny little tricks to make it look like there's a chase happening when they're just moving the characters into a new position. It's a really clever, funny to look at way of doing things. Fantastic, I bet you didn't know she had the ability to morph through snow. And should we have a look at what he's doing inside the lift? Nothing. He's just chilling. Now there is so much going on with this final little cutscene. I just needed to sort of show it all at once. So you have all of the effects underneath the meteorite. You have the spider creature. You have Lara up to the top left. You have Willard on the right. Everything is already animated. Lara is running on the spot, waiting for her part to start. Just, I guess, looping animations. It's easier that way, so that if they cut to her, they don't have to be like, oh, we needed to move now, if she's always doing it. That light effect comes from underneath. And Lara is looping. She's going back and forth up there. And even her falling animation. She falls down once. Willard is there. The camera cuts to look at him. And meanwhile, Lara falls again. You just sort of saw it out of shot there. So then Willard is shifted into position, and what we see underneath, the meteorite is rising up. And then when it's time for him to fall, he only falls as far as necessary to be out of shot. So they don't animate him falling all the way down, and then he just appears in his standard position off screen under the map, which is quite interesting, because then when the spider appears, Spider Willard, Insect Willard, it hasn't got enough legs for a spider, is it? Lara's frozen in position while we're looking at the creature, but little did we know that under the map the entire time was normal Willard.